Well, hello and welcome to Management Information Systems, CIS4350. I'm Emmett Gray. I'm going to be your instructor. So this is just a very quick slide presentation that goes over everything you need to know about how this course is going to work. So let's try it. All right, so once again, welcome to the course. I'm going to try my best to take some of this boring information and kind of make it interesting and fun, I hope. There's an awful lot of stuff in here. This is a whirlwind tour of everything you ever wanted to know about how business and IT work together. It's not an incredibly deep course. I mean, there'll be a chapter on hardware and a chapter on software and a chapter on networking, but it doesn't go into a huge amount of detail on any one of those. So we kind of hit the top level. So it is lots and lots of topics, but not very deep. So consequently, this is not a technical course. It's not a difficult course. Most people don't have that much trouble with these courses. I tend to try to stress the concepts and philosophies as much as practical. Rather than getting you to memorize a bunch of stuff. Memorize the 4 parts of a CPU. Things that are of no particular interest to anyone. I want you to know essentially how things work. I don't really care what you call it. So I rarely ask you things like, what's the definition of this term? Now, this is a 100% online course, so this is the only time you're going to be able to see me is through these little videos. Okay. So, this course used to be called CISK450, so in fact, I may say that, and maybe some of the videos will actually show that up in the corner. Now, a lot of people have the wrong idea about online courses. This is just a lecture-based course, just like if you had gone to a face-to-face course. It's still lecture-based, it's just done with these videos. Okay, this is not a self-paced course. Some people have this wild idea that, it's online, I'll just do it whenever I want. No, there are tasks that are due every single week. All right. There's 2 textbooks. The first one is required. The Principles Information Systems 12th edition. Last time I checked in the bookstore, they seem to have quite a few. And then there's an optional one, which is the APA Writing Style Guide. If you recall, this is a writing intensive course. So, unfortunately, by the way, look, everyone hates writing intensive courses, okay? So just get over it, all right? So yes, this is a writing intensive course. Yes, you are going to write a bunch of papers. I try not to torture you too much by making you write, 15-page papers. They're going to be kind of short. All right. Again, lecture-based. If you miss a lecture, you won't know what's going on. And about 20% of the material that shows up on the quizzes comes from the lecture and not in the book. So, like I said, this is lecture-based, and lectures are not optional. I mean, just like a face-to-face course, if you forgot to come to class, you're probably not going to do well, right? Well, it's the same thing here. If you forget to do a video, then yeah. The only good part about online courses is you can say, well, I'll go back and watch that video a second time, which you can't do in a face-to-face. So it's actually probably kind of cool. Okay, so the top level requirements, so everything is happening through our learning management system called Canvas. Hopefully this is not too new to you. If this is your first time in Canvas, we're going to provide another video to kind of help you out. But all the assignments and quizzes and emails, announcements, everything is done through Canvas. There'll be no other way to get a hold of me. There's no paper. You don't print anything. Everything's completely electronic, which obviously means you need a decent computer. So a Windows 7 or better kind of machine, if you want to use a Mac or, if heaven forbid, a Linux box, that'd be cool. You can also go to the university to use some of their computers because they have things like that available, both in the university computer lab and in the library. Now, you do need a reliable internet connection. The story goes that, it's time for a quiz that is due. And so you say, well, it's getting kind of late. I guess I'll go ahead and start that quiz. And so it's 10 o'clock at night and you find you're going to get started. Then there's a thunderstorm outside and, bolt of lightning and you lose your internet. That's not going to be an excuse for being late. These requirements are out there for a week or 2, sometimes even more. And if you wait to the last minute and maybe your power is not reliable where you are, your internet's not reliable where you are, you need to be kind of making some other arrangements. Okay, so about the only software that you're going to need is you're going to need to be able to produce Microsoft Word documents. Now, I didn't say you need Microsoft Word. I said you need to be able to produce Microsoft Word documents. Although on the other hand, you can get Microsoft Office through the university free. You can, when you go to the Outlook portal, down on the right hand side, there's a way you can actually launch and get us that Office 365, which is Office 2016 version, and install it on your home computer, and you can do it. I mean, no charge at all. Now, the university is using Office 2010, but that's not a problem. So, if you carried your document back and forth like on the thumb drive, there won't be any issues with that. So, university does have Office 365, and there's also a thing called DreamSpark, or it's actually called Imagine now, but who cares? Where you can get other things other than just Microsoft Office. Okay, so what are your expectations for this course? Well, I'll tell you mine. You're going to learn an awful lot about the melding of business and IT, and there's a huge overlap between those two. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to apply what you learn by writing some papers. Unfortunately, now you do not need to be one of those computer guru nuts to do well in this class. Not at all. Okay, this is not one of those things where you have to be a computer expert, and it's certainly not my job to turn you into a computer expert. Okay. And we're not doing any programming or any of that stuff. This is a whirlwind top-level tour. Now, admittedly, it's huge, wide in scope, but not that deep. Not that deep. Okay, so there's 14 chapters in the book, and we're only going to cover 13 of them. The last one is the personal and social impacts of computers. That's kind of lightweight. But as you can see, hardware and software and databases and network and internet and e-commerce, again, just one chapter at a pop. So, it's pretty widespread stuff. Now, I show this at the beginning of almost every class just to make it clear what we're going to talk about when it comes to writing papers. This is kind of what they call the Bloom's taxonomy of learning. At the bottom of the pyramid is things like memorization. What are the state capitals? What's the state capital of South Dakota? That kind of a question. I'm not interested in those kind of questions. I'm not interested in you recalling facts and basic concepts and define, duplicate, and list and memorize. That's not what we're after in this course. This is a college level course, for God's sake. I want you to understand stuff, okay? Not just memorize it. I mean, in reality, you could go look up what the capital of South Dakota is, right? Everyone's got a phone. Why the heck would anyone ever want to commit that to memory? I don't have enough brain cells for that kind of information in my head. I don't know about you guys. So yes, I use resources. I pop off the internet. I got my phone. I can find out what the capital of South Dakota is. I ain't going to memorize that. Okay, so kind of got the idea? So let's drive this home a little bit more. So there's the difference between what and why. A what type question would be, what is the definition of this term? And that's kind of something that you can go look up. You could actually just take that question, paste it into Google, and it will tell you what the answer is. Okay, so that's not the kind of questions you're going to find on my quizzes. These are things that, I forgot how to do something, let me go look that up. Or let me go online, or let me find some application help files. Things that people fully expect that you're going to look up. So I don't want to ask you questions. How about this? This course is not in your ability to use Google. Okay? That's not part of this course. Okay. So what I'm after is, a good question would be, why do you use A versus B in this scenario? Okay? Now you can't copy that and paste that into Google and get anything. Because I'm asking you to actually think, to understand something, not just regurgitate what I told you in the lecture or what's in the book. I actually want you to think. Okay. And one of the things is not just, how do you choose one thing over another, but what are the consequences of choosing, and perhaps what's the consequences for choosing poorly? Yeah, so what are the long-term effects of my choices? Those are very, very good questions. not definition of terms. Okay, so I'm kind of fanatical on this, and a lot of people don't believe me until finally when we get to the point where, they get the first quiz and they go, oh man, that guy was serious. Like, well, I told you. Okay, so here's the requirements for the course. Basically, there's going to be two major exams, a midterm and a final. They're not comprehensive, so midterm's only the first half and the final's just the second half. We're going to have a review session before, an entire review session where I go through everything that we covered in that half of the semester. There's going to be 6 take-home quizzes. Typically, these are out there for a week, so they appear, and then you get to do them for any time during that week. Typically, about 20 questions, takes about 30 minutes to do. I'll give you an entire hour to do it. There'll be 6 assignments. Yeah, these are going to be writing assignments. And then 1 term paper. And term paper is basically nothing more than a bigger writing assignment. It'll be out there for 4 weeks. And I'm also going to ask you to turn in a draft because I want to make dang sure you're on the right path before you get going further. And then the last one, there's a participation thing where, did you do the things I asked you to do? Did you do your weekly journal? Did you do an introduction? Did you do the practice exam and the practice quiz? So here's basically how the grades come out. About equal amount of effort on exams and quizzes. So it's 30% for the exam, 30% for the, and quite frankly, it's 30% for the assignment if you kind of remember that the term paper is part of it. Term paper 10% and participation is 5%. So that's how the grades come out. So if there's 2 exams, a midterm and a final, that means your final is worth 15% of your entire grade. Okay, good. All right. So here's the schedule. The schedule works like this. Everything starts on Monday, and then everything is due the following Sunday. So, for example, in this particular case, there's some that starting on the 28th of August is the beginning of the online week. It ends that following Sunday, and there's a test that's due. Yes, there's something due every single week to include this first week. Okay, just telling you, every single week something is due. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about paper. We're going to have another entire video on this topic, but I want to see an awful lot of original content. Here's the idea. If I ask you to write a paper, I do not want you to do a review. A review would be, I read this source document and here's what it said. Okay, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking for something original. I want to be able to look at your paper and see something in there that is not in the source documents. Some original content. So just paraphrasing content, that's not going to cut it. And I want you to demonstrate your ability to think about something. So if I ask you a paper, it says, what's the best choice for backup strategy? I don't want you to look at somebody else's thoughts. I want you to think yourself. Using other people's thoughts is not going to cut it. You got to do the same. I want to be able to see that you actually understand the material. So writing a good paper is more than putting words on the page. I want to be able to see you think. All right, we'll go into this in a lot more detail in an upcoming video, but this is kind of sort of important and trips up an awful lot of people. Okay, all the papers are going to be turned in using APA format. That's the American Psychological Association. The optional book, the little blue book, is that manual. You may not need that book, but we're going to have an entire video to go over how all this works. And we're actually going to end up doing a test paper where there's no writing whatsoever. I'm actually going to give you the words, and your task is only to put it in APA format. You don't have to. In fact, you don't even have to read what the heck the words are. All I want you to do is just put it in the right format. Okay, now I'm going to pause this video right now and kind of pick it up later. I break these videos up into 15-minute segments because that's kind of the attention span of a student, okay? So I'm going to hit pause now, and we'll join you back in here in just a few.